In the known, liked, and trusted trifecta, there's this concept about building trust that is very difficult to get a handle on exactly what it means. We're going to talk about one way of doing that today, so stay tuned. My name is Chris Hargraves. I'm from Known, Liked, and Trusted, where we help lawyers and law firms develop and execute really good digital marketing strategies. And we're going to be talking about content today. Content is an enormous part of any law firm marketing strategy, or at least it should be. If it isn't, then it should be. If you haven't got a content strategy, then get one. I'm not going to sell you on that today. It's just really important. But how can we use content in a way that actually builds trust, maybe even builds our likability? And the way we do it is by not making our content read like a case note. I have ranted about this now probably 600 or 700 times, sometimes in person, sometimes in the materials I do, sometimes in written format, sometimes on video. I've probably done it before and you may have seen me do it before. But the case note methodology for producing content for your website or content for your social media is a terrible way of writing anything. Why is it? Because it's sterile, it's impersonal, it's not written for anyone in particular, it has no actual personality attributes of any kind, and it gives you zero opportunity to be useful in the way you're presenting information. That's why. If you come out of law school and you're helping someone write their content, you need to evolve beyond writing case note style things. We don't need a citation followed by the court below, followed by a summary of the relevant facts, followed by the decision, and we do not need the word opined to appear in your article, please. What we need is something that is actually genuinely helpful for the people for whom you are writing it. In an ideal world, it also needs to be a little bit personable. If you were talking to someone and you talked to them in the way your article read, would they think you were an engaging speaker, or would they think you were possibly an early generation AI bot? You know, the kinds of things where they would read out the thing and they would sound like this, and that is how your article sometimes reads. I read a lot of articles that are written precisely like that. They have no personality. So one of my tips for interjecting a little personality, and in doing so potentially building a little more trust, because it's that authenticity element, it's that likability element, and to some extent it's humor, believe it or not, that will help build trust. Somewhere along the way, lawyers have decided that build trust means demonstrate expertise, and these are not fundamentally the same thing. Being expert is relevant, but it is not the same thing to demonstrate your expertise as building trust. Building trust is more complex, it involves human relationships, and it is more subtle and nuanced. But if you can be involved in a few strategies when you produce your content, then you will have a better way of building trust using even written content. You will notice that as I'm doing this, whether you're listening to it or watching it, that it has a relatively high degree of personality in it. And the reason is, of course, because I'm talking to you. And in video, it's very, very easy to do once you get past the stage of recording videos where you seem extremely awkward and wooden. But once you get past that and you're more natural on camera and you're talking to it the way that you otherwise would, it's a very good mechanism for building trust because it's got a lot of my personality. You can see me. There is no fakery available because I'm just not a good enough actor to pretend to be something for this video that I'm not actually very close to in real life. However, when we're using written content, all of that opportunity is stripped away, and it can only take place in our words. It can only take place in our phrasing. So what kinds of things can we do in our written content to spice it up a little and have a little bit more of us, so that our article is conspicuously us rather than an article which could have been written by literally anyone, anywhere? The first is, don't be afraid to write in a slightly less formal style. I recognize that a lot of lawyers have learned to write in a fairly formal academic style, so not using contractions, writing in just a ridiculously enormous amount of passive voice for some reason, and many other styles we have embraced because we have read an enormous amount of legislation, we have read an enormous amount of case law, or at the very least the head notes to the case law, and in doing so we have internalized almost by osmosis this particular way of writing. That's not good marketing writing. It's not generally, there are some funny decisions out there, but it's not generally written in a way that is designed to influence someone in a way, or to sell something in a way, or to market your services, okay? They're different writing styles. So decrease the formality a little bit. Make it approachable and friendly and likable style writing. Think more in the way you would communicate with family members and friends. Not full casual, but not completely formal either. If you're going out to dinner, it's smart casual, okay? Write like you're going to a smart casual writing school. The next thing you can do is have a little bit of funny. It's okay to have a little bit of funny. Sometimes it is inappropriate, but even just if you have an example, and that's going to be my next one, just to really telegraph what's coming, if you have a little bit of funny from the names you're using, you could tell an interesting anecdote, you could point out an unknown fact that someone didn't have an opportunity to find out before. You can do any number of things, just a little bit of appropriate funny. Not silly, just funny. Funny can be fine. The next one is to use examples. Using examples is a great way of connecting with your audience because, as I've said only about 1 billion times before, content marketing is about presenting material to a well-defined and understood audience. And the way you demonstrate that you understand the people you're writing for well is by using the kind of language and giving the kind of examples that are the kinds of words and the kinds of things that are actually coming up in their day-to-day lives. There's no point in targeting a particular subset of people if you're writing in a way and using examples that have absolutely nothing to do with them. If you're in a business that, for example, is looking to protect intellectual property and startups, you're not going to use examples that are only relevant to large corporations that have been in business for 50 years. That makes no sense. Use examples and language that actually connect you with the people that you're trying to write for, and they will go, oh, this person actually gets it. They get it, okay? So examples is good too. Last one is this. Don't be afraid to have a little bit of vulnerability. So there are a few ways you can do that. I'm not saying you need to disclose your entire past in every blog post. I'm not saying that every single thing you write needs to be the, oh, I was down in the dumps and now I'm, a multi-squillionaire. We don't need to talk about how you were raised. We don't need to talk about your parents or your children necessarily. A small amount of vulnerability, something that is personal to you. I remember in my early days of practice, the first time I did such and such, it didn't go very well. When I was attempting to do this, something happened. The first time I learned this, whatever. Some sort of personal connection that means what is written on the page can only possibly have been from you. This is the kind of thing that opens up the opportunity for a more trusted relationship. So between those elements, if you can weave them into your content, you will find that A, it will become a little more fun to write, and B, it will be more effective from a marketing perspective. It can be hard to do at first, and I know a lot of firms prefer a higher degree of formality than what I'm describing here is going to necessarily permit, but from a marketing and trust building and relationship development perspective, this is exactly the kind of stuff we do in real life when we meet people. We don't speak formally. We don't chat to people in the same way that we would give submissions to a court, do we? We do use some personal examples. We do talk about things they are interested in. I spoke about that in a previous video. And we adopt and embrace these various principles in the way we actually engage with other people in real life. Just take those strategies, translate them into your written work, and you will find that it is ultimately more successful from any number of perspectives. That's all for today. I'll see you next time.